now is a Republican lawmaker not speaking at CPAC. Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois is one of the few Republican Congress members to vote for impeachment. Thanks for joining us. How do you feel about what's happening at CPAC this weekend?
Well, so I always said we have a choice as a party. It's like a Sunday morning hangover. We can come to grips with what our life's become, or we can start drinking Bloody Marys and deal with it later. And, there are some that are choosing that route. That's what CPAC is. It's always been an eclectic group, but, it's trying to solidify the conservative movement as Donald Trump's movement, which is ironic because Donald Trump is quite honestly one of the furthest things from a conservative. So it'll be interesting to see what he says.
Well, let me read you something from his prepared remarks that includes this line. Quote, "The Republican Party is united. The only division is between a handful of Washington, D.C. establishment political hacks and everybody else all over the country." Congressman, what say you?
Well, I think he's wrong. First off, I don't think the party's united. And I don't think it's just a handful of quote unquote establishment hacks. It's a lot of people. When I launched this Country First movement, just country1st.com, we heard from so many people that are disaffected Republicans that were thinking of leaving or have left or just say it's time to move on. And we hear that from independents as well as some Democrats who just want a functioning Republican Party. So I think if you're looking at the narrow, shrinking base of the Republican Party, that's one thing. If you look at all Americans as the people we need to talk to, then I certainly don't think we're united.
But if money speaks, I do have to wonder where the enthusiasm is in the party, because we know the former president has raised tens of millions of dollars since he was booted from the White House, and you have this new PAC. Are you finding a lot of people eager to give money to the anti-Trump faction?
So I really am, and it's not that it's really even anti-Trump. It's just what is next? Where are we going to go as a party? Can we be a party that puts country, before the party and swears allegiance to a country versus one man? And yeah, there has been a massive outpouring, and not just of money, but of people that are wanting to be part of it, that give their email addresses, which is not something people tend to give away too easily. And it's just literally saying, look, what's next here? We have peddled as a party in fear. We have used fear as a motivating factor to get votes. And let's be clear, fear does work, but it also destroys democracies over time. And we're starting to see that shudder as a result of using corrosive fear all the time.
And lies destroy. Conspiracy theories destroy, right? Right now, a lot of the Republican Party won't even accept facts. Republican Senator Josh Hawley is there at CPAC. He seemed to brag about his role in sowing doubt about the election. Take a listen.
I objected during the Electoral College certification. Maybe you heard about it. I did. I stood up. And I said, we ought to have a debate about election integrity.
What's your reaction to that?
Well, it's sad because Senator Hawley is one of the smarter guys. I mean, he knows, so he knows better. He is using fear, standing in front of a crowd and getting applause and screams and trying to set up your presidential aspirations for 2024 is intoxicating. But it's lies. It's untrue. And it's, as a party, we have to look at that and go, okay, 74 million people voted for Donald Trump. They weren't disenfranchised. There just wasn't enough of them to make him president. They were enfranchised. Their vote counted. But more people voted for Joe Biden. So how are we ever going to win elections again if we use fear and we use lies and we use conspiracies? There is probably nobody in this country that would vote for Donald Trump today that wasn't going to vote for him in 2020 at the election. We're losing people quickly. And as a party, we have a choice. We can sit around and just, say our piece, or we can actually go out and use optimism and win the next generation.
I'm curious, have you talked to Josh Hawley since the insurrection?
No, and honestly, if he called, I'm not sure I'd even take the call. I just think, given the damage to the Capitol, given the fact that now people try to obscure that as saying it was somehow Antifa or BLM, but yet then they go out and say, I saw this rap song that was posted where they're talking about patriots knocking on the Capitol. It's not something to celebrate. You see the lives lost, the destruction of families, and these people that spread lies and peddle in fear. And quite honestly, to me, I really want nothing to do with them. We have to compete for the narrative of this party.
Let me really paint the picture here, because if this is the Republican Party, a golden statue of Trump, you have convicted felon Roger Stone dancing outside the conference and inside these continued claims that the election was stolen. Do you have a place in this party?
Well, I think that's what the battle is for. So I've been a Republican as young as I am, even far longer than Donald Trump has. And so I have to fight for the soul of this party. If you think about it, for the last 4 years or so, there's really been nobody competing for the narrative of the party. There's been nobody putting up a counter narrative. And so we have to give that a shot, and I'm going to fight hard to do it. And, watching Country First, expand has been great. But I know that, if we don't win that narrative fight, it's one thing. But I know I'm going to be at peace because I have fought as hard as I could to do it.
We haven't heard much from Donald Trump in more than a month until now. I mean, he's been banned from social media. And yet, speakers aside, it is the people that have been clamoring for his return. How do you change the party if this is what the Republican base wants?
So I think it's a couple things. It's not just going after Donald Trump, but I think it's exposing the tricks that have been used. Like with conspiracy theories, QAnon, we ignored it for too long. And you have to actually talk about that for it to be exposed. And I think it's the same thing with politicians that peddle in division, they peddle in fear, and they peddle in conspiracy. And until we start openly talking about that, some people in the party then will start to kind of wake up and say, yeah, this, the inspirational quotes of past leaders that I love certainly don't comport with what's happening today. So on top of that, then it's providing a counter narrative. I don't even think these battles are about issues. It's not about where you stand on taxes or any of that. It's really about where do you stand on putting the country before the party. And that's something that I think people in their soul believe in. They just have to be kind of pulled out of this garbage that they've been fed for years.
I do want to get your reaction to this straw poll that was taken at CPAC. We just got the results from it. And when Donald Trump is in the poll, he has an overwhelming lead before any other contestant. You can see there 55% on top, and then the next closest is Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida with 21%, followed by Kristi Noem of South Dakota, Nikki Haley, Mike Pompeo, Ted Cruz, people who are perhaps more like-minded in terms of the Republican Party like you, maybe Larry Hogan of Maryland or John Kasich of Ohio. They're at 0.1% support. And if you throw out Donald Trump, yeah, much the same, but Don Jr., Ivanka Trump, they're all ahead of even the former vice president, Mike Pence, in this poll. What does that tell you? Does this surprise you at all?
No. Keep in mind, Mike Pence, the guy that was very loyal to Donald Trump, is now publicly going to be number one for some reason, because nobody ever survives being friends with Donald Trump. What it says to me, keep in mind, Rand Paul used to win all these straw polls, too. And as far as I know, he was never president. It does show that 45% of that group did not choose Donald Trump, which is something. I think that is something. But it just shows we're early in this process, and we have to show this competing vision. And there's, by the way, a lot of people out there that don't even know what CPAC is, would never go, would still pull a Republican ballot if you talk about things like getting rid of fear. And by the way, I would encourage people, go to countryfirst.com, 1ST, just put out a video about fear. And I think it's going to be really important for this narrative going forward.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger, I appreciate the conversation. Thanks for taking the time.